All right, very special guest on the chatter today. It's New York Knicks point guard, the former man of Moeller. It's Miles Deuce McBride. Deuce, how we doing, man?
Doing really well. Appreciate you guys having me.
Absolutely. And we're humanizing this interview big time. For all the Knicks and the Mountaineer fans tuning in, we're going with a little bit of an origin story, back to the beginning in exclusive. So, myself, eighth grade or so, junior high, our gym teacher, Rob Hacker, calls us in. He gives us one of those, you know this, Deuce. Everybody around the circle, and
Yeah.
tells us about a guy, Trey McBride, that's coming in. I didn't hear anything about Miles. They came in at the same time, but Trey had all this hype, was a really good basketball player himself. When did you start to overpass Trey as the better McBride, beating him on the driveway, that sort of thing? Because he had the size early and a lot of the skill. You did too, but he was the guy we were talking about from day one.
Oh man. Honestly, we're still going back and forth to this day. We haven't played as consistently since we've both been pros, but I mean, we had some battles throughout college, and it was tough. It's still fun. It's still fun playing with them.
Yeah, and as far as just to kind of go off of, I know Chuck was saying before we jumped on air. So I went to Elder, played basketball there before your time. Similar players, I averaged 4.5 points. Didn't sniff a college scholarship. You now play for the Knicks. You know the past deviated a little bit, but I was running through the old GCL Sports website, so I knew you guys were good. From what I pulled off, 29-0 as a senior. I think the average margin of victory was 26 points. Did at any given point, you guys won back-to-back state titles. At any given point, was that a blast of a year? Or was it almost, did it get a little redundant just coming out there knowing you're going to win by 25? What was that like? Because I didn't necessarily have that similar stereo there.
Oh man, no, I had a blast. I think my whole high school career. I think in the games I played, I lost one game, which was the state finals my sophomore year when we were 27-0. I think 28-0. Um, and then my junior year, I got injured in football, so that was really tough. But I was able to play the last four games and win that state championship with Jackson Hayes, Jeremiah Davenport, a couple of those guys having good careers. And then senior year, I think we were so locked in on going back to back that it never got boring. And when you're having fun doing it with a group of guys that you've known since you were young, there's nothing better.
Heck of a quarterback at Moeller High School. Based on how you play in the NBA, the defense you have, I think it's safe to call you a dual threat quarterback to the truest extent. You got hurt, gave up football to focus solely on basketball. But I want the exclusive. How good would you have been?
I always say football was my first love. I started playing before basketball, um, and I happened to be, I don't think I was set on it, but my high school coach John Rodenberg, he came to me as a freshman and said, we know you're good at basketball, but you have the ability to be a Big Ten quarterback. And obviously I was pretty athletic and really good, but when I heard something like that, man, I went to work like no other. I was throwing in the tires at home, throwing at the goalpost, throwing in soccer goals. I mean, I was doing anything I could to be a great quarterback. And I was getting interest from schools like Ohio State, Michigan State, Syracuse. Man, a lot of schools for football. I personally think I could have went to the NFL. I'm a little biased. It's the only time I'll really brag about myself. Just my work ethic. I felt like I had the tools to be an NFL quarterback.
I believe it. And you can probably see in the background, I got a little UC emblem back here. I know for a damn fact you could have started at quarterback for UC this past year. But I got to ask you, whenever, me and Chuck are UC fans, what was UC ever on the radar for you as a recruit? Was that something you were looking at, kind of the hometown kid? What was that like for you?
Yeah, because you were cousins with Yancey Gates, right?
Yeah, yeah, Yancey, and then Anthony McBride. They're related, so we he was Yancey's high school teammate, and then he played at UC with them. But Football wise, they were on the radar. They recruited me pretty heavy with Luke Fickle and all those guys coming down to Moeller a lot. But basketball wise, not at all. It definitely hurts. I think being a Cincinnati kid and not getting a Xavier or UC offer, to this day, I don't know why. Um, they felt the need that to go out of state when you have homegrown really good kids right here in your backyard. I definitely think I would have considered it heavy if they would have offered, but my dad being a Xavier alumni, I could see why UC probably didn't pull the trigger. But I mean, I definitely supported UC, still do. Just obviously being from there, I want to see Cincinnati do well. Xavier though, I'm still not sure why Chris Mack never pulled the trigger. I still think about that definitely, and it goes all the way up to Ohio State. Not sure why they didn't feel the need, but it all worked out for me. God had a plan.
It did. Well, I mean, I think it might have been for Mick Cronin's sake. You might have scored too many points in high school. He loved probably your defense, but he's like, that guy puts the ball in the basket too many times. We can't be doing that here at UC. But as far as I could see, a lot of times the Columbus, for whatever reason, doesn't venture down to Cincinnati, but you're like freaking 10 minutes from campus of Xavier and UC. So that's wild to me. But in regards to your college career, I know we're backpedaling a little bit, but Bob Huggins. So you're going from Bob Huggins, Tom Thibodeau, some kind of like hard-nosed guys. How's it like playing for those two guys growing up, obviously?
Man, their reputation is the real deal. Um, no joke about defense. I remember coming in as a freshman to Coach Huggins, and man, we were fortunate to have a foreign trip, so we are going to Spain. So the NCAA allows you to have real practices. So we had a 3 hour practice. I'm fresh off, nothing. It was summer basically, and I'm coming into campus and having a 3 hour practice with nothing but full court defense and having to guard elite Division I scorers. I mean, that was one of the longest days of my life. Those first couple weeks on campus was you question how much you love basketball for sure. Those were
Right.
some tough weeks going from. I mean, and it sounds crazy, but even just eating, like the food they force on you, just knowing what's coming up in the season, it's like you wake up, you eat, lift, gym, eat again, gym, go to sleep, school. You know what I mean? Like it's insane.
What do they got
What's the
you eating?
best
Just like
advice?
chicken breast and oatmeal?
No, I mean it was just like nonstop protein shakes, like whatever they could find and how many calories you could get, throw it in there, like omelets and bacon, egg, and cheese sandwiches, like great food, but like
There you go.
non-stop. It was a lot.
What's the best advice you've ever received in the NBA? Who was it from? When was it? How did it sink in?
Man, I've been blessed to play with some really legendary players, from Derrick Rose and Kemba to I mean, guy might not be as known, but Alec Burks, Taj Gibson's, and then just being around the league, talking to guys like Draymond, Chris Paul, man, Chauncey. I think the main thing everybody says it's kind of cliche, but it's truly keeping the main thing the main thing. Um, it's one of the first kind of things you hear in the league from a lot of guys, and you're kind of like, oh, like what does that mean? But you start seeing it because our lives just get filled with so many distractions, so many people coming in trying to ask you to do this, do that, and then you're worried about
Yeah, sorry about getting
playing
you on
time.
this podcast, man, but thanks.
Nah, all good. But you start worrying about playing time. You start worrying about you know trade requests or trade things, and how can I do this with this type of time and traveling, because until you've gone through an NBA season, you can't even explain the type of travel and playing 82 games. So it's really like, you know, taking that challenge of what's ever in front of you and doing it one step at a time, because it can get hectic and your head can be spinning. But if you keep the main thing, you'll be on the right track.
Yeah, absolutely. And that kind of leads me to this question. So with the OG Anunoby trade that recently happened, it seemed like it kind of opened up a spot in the rotation for you. What's it like being, how do you keep yourself prepared for at any given point that, Thibodeau might say, hey, Miles, we need 25 minutes from you tonight. How is it, staying prepared on the day-to-day where some games you might not play as much as others? What's that like for you?
It's definitely a difficult task for me. Just, I'm still young in my NBA career, but after the first 2 years, you kind of see like, oh man, this player's not going to play, this player's not going to play. But, you've prepared all summer, you've practiced hard, and, when a coach has that trust in you to play you that amount of minutes, knowing a player is not going to play, it means a lot. When a coach and an organization gives you confidence like that, you might be limited right now, but it's not because you're not good. It's just we have this rotation, this rhythm. So, but at any given moment, it can change like that, and it's proven to be that.
Playing for Bob Huggins. Obviously, Cincinnati fans love him. Best story you have as your exit interview?
Ooh, man, sheesh. I got a lot of good stories. I don't know how many I can I can tell. He's got some. We had some moments, but I mean, sheesh, a lot of times. I think just the everyday type of stuff. He can be so cool, telling jokes, just having a good time off the court. But as soon as he stepped on those lines, in between those lines for practice, I mean, he turned into a whole nother person. The intensity, um, just his character was just bigger than life. I mean, it was like crazy when he got how serious he took basketball, and just the stories and the life lessons he gave me. I'm just forever grateful for all those things.
Did Carl Kramer have you ready for that? He's a pretty intense guy himself in between those lines.
Definitely, CK definitely had me ready for that. He did a great job preparing me.
No doubt,
mean, you
dude.
had Carl Kramer, Bob Huggins, Tom Thibodeau, and I didn't know. I was like, man, he's going to just be locked in and so intense for this interview. But you've been awesome, man. But you went through the ringer with the coaches, man.
Yeah, I haven't had it easy, but I wouldn't have it any other way.
What if I told you that no two paths are ever the same? That different roads oftentimes lead to the spot where it all began. What if I told you two childhood friends came together to take over the podcast world?
Where's my snare?
Villanova should not be in the tournament.
Hey, everybody. How are you? Chuck Walter here. This sweatshirt's getting a little hot in here. It's sorry about it, Pittsburgh. Better luck tomorrow.
Cincinnati, how we doing tonight?
The only thing on my mind this year is getting back to the state championship and smoking as much resin as I possibly can with my buddies.
It's the Skyline chili eating duo you love.
Oh, sweet heavens.
Back in action. This is The Chatter.